Howdy, howdy, howdy. My name's Anashi Sasuke, and I think the microphone's too close to my face. Hold on. Welcome back to SCP Foundation Wiki, or whatever the hell it was I was calling this. So, first things first, sorry about there not being a Homestuck episode yesterday. I was intending on it, but things kind of got away from me. I cannot see the future. So, in the last episode, we covered the Skeleton Key, the Fountain of Youth, the Abdominal Planet, which I totally misunderstood what that was going to be. Zombies! Red Ice, and Collars of Control. Now it's time for a sentient Civil War memorial statue. This is, topical? Yeah, this is topical. Okay, so, it's safe. Sure it is. Item SCP-11 and the area surrounding it are to be cleaned once every day. For safety purposes, cleaning should start at least 30 minutes after sundown. Cleaning should always be performed by at least 2 personnel, who are also advised to know anything unusual about the item or the debris cleaned up. In a situation where the item cannot be cleaned for more than 2 days, local residents must be contacted and instructed not to approach the item. Okay. Containment procedures nullified 2004. Description: 11 is a Civil War memorial statue located in Woodstock, Vermont. The statue is the image of a young male soldier holding a musket at his side and is carved out of granite quarried within the area. Occasionally, 11 has been observed lifting its musket to the sky to fire at birds which attempt to land on or defecate on it. Reports detail that its movements produce soft grinding sounds but do not cause it any structural failure. Oddly, the gunfire is very similar to that of a standard firearm, despite observations that the item only loads granite bullets and granite powder into the musket, which is also unharmed by the firing. In spite of its efforts, some fecal matter does manage to strike 11, and it has reportedly become distressed when it had a large amount of feces on it, on some rare occasions even firing at humans. How is this safe? How is it safe to have a statue that goes, "Ew, bird poop, I'ma shoot people"? I don't understand how that's classified as safe. Come on now. Addendum. Those assigned to maintain SCP-11 are to see Document 11-1 for instructions. Document 11-1, Maintenance Brief. Archived in 2004. Access to personnel, blah 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 blah. Okay. Its seeming sentience has increased since the first report of activity in 1995. As of 2004, the item's containment procedures have been dropped, but it remains under constant observation. Below are landmark events in its activity. March 12, 95. Woodstock residents report the statue's eyes moving. First sign of activity. September 30th, 95. Shoots musket for first time. Begins shooting birds out of the sky. January 96. Registration of SCP-11. Containment procedures begin. 97. Observed moving casually and looking about. May 3rd, 2000. After caretaker blah blah jokingly shouts, "Good shot!" to SCP-11, the item replies, "Thank you," in a reportedly very human voice. First speech from statue. October 22nd, 2011. 11 has conversation with caretaker. 2001. Shooting of birds stops. 2002. At the imploring of blah blah, 11 steps down from its pedestal. 2003 to 2004. It reaches a human level of self-awareness. 2004. Containment procedures dropped. Custody of 11 transferred to blah blah. 2005. Blah blah reports that 11 is romantically attracted to her. 2006. Most recent psych test reports an IQ of 133. Okay, so apparently the reason it's safe is because it became a person. Probably still made of granite, so that romantic relationship with so-and-so is probably really uncomfortable. Or it could be really great depending on how well polished the granite is. Ha! Okay, so, number 12. A bad composition. What, like a notebook? Okay, so this is Euclid class, which I believe is supposed to be deadly. Special containment procedures. 12 is to be kept in a darkened room at all times. If the object is exposed to light or seen by personnel using a light frequency other than infrared, remove them for mental health screening and immediate physical. Object is to be encased in an iron-shielded box suspended from the ceiling with a minimum clearance of 2.5 meters, or 8 feet. For the Americans who don't know meters, I'm also an American who don't know meters, so not being... I don't know what the country version of racist is. Anyway, from the floor, walls, or any openings. Description: 12 was retrieved by archaeologist K.M. Sandoval, Kim, during the excavation of a northern Italian tomb destroyed by a recent storm. The object, a piece of handwritten musical score entitled On Mount Golgotha. That's a... oh my god. Okay. Part of a larger set of sheet music appears to be incomplete. The red/black ink, first thought to be some form of berry or natural dye ink, was later found to be human blood from multiple subjects. The first personnel to locate the sheet, Site 19 Special Salvage, had 2 members descend into insanity, attempting to use their own blood to finish the composition, ultimately resulting in massive blood loss and internal trauma. Following initial investigations, multiple test subjects were allowed access to the score. In every case, the subjects mutilated themselves in order to use their own blood to finish the piece, resulting in subsequent symptoms of psychosis and massive trauma. Those subjects who managed to finish a section of the piece immediately commit suicide, declaring the piece to be impossible to complete. Attempts to perform the music have resulted in a disagreeable cacophony, with each instrument part having no correlation or harmony with the other instruments. Okay, so I know that this one is in the game SCP Containment Breach, because I've been watching Markiplier play that, which is what made me decide to do this, and he found it, and his character tried to do the thing where they try to finish it with their own blood, and then they die, so yeah. Got that to look forward to when I end up playing this in October. Let's see, what's next? Blue Lady cigarettes. Okay, well, at least they're safe. I mean, as safe as a cigarette can be. SCP-13 are to be kept in a secure storage vault at Site 66, which, as we now know, is the one that is inside of the pocket dimension of the door with the 12 keys. Exposed subjects are to be monitored for differences between their symptoms, besides lung cancer. Exposed subjects are to be interviewed daily, and any changes in perception are to be logged. Are these cigarettes or are these LSD? Okay, so, description. 13 is a collective designation of 242 cigarettes which displays similar anomalies. The most common external detail between instances is the presence of the words Blue Lady, handwritten on each cigarette in blue ink. Because if it was written in any other color than blue, that would just be false advertising. Subjects who consume the contents of 13 through inhalation will begin to perceive themselves as a specific unidentified woman. Subjects have described the woman to be aged between 25 and 35 years old, standing approximately 1.6 meters tall. I don't know how tall that is because American, I only know feet. With an estimated weight of between 50 to 55 kilograms, don't know that either. Additional recurring details include cropped dark hair, blue eyes, and bright blue lipstick. Is this Vriska? This sounds like it's Vriska. Just saying. Like, I mean, if you watch my Homestuck thing, you know who the hell I'm talking about. I don't need to go get a picture of Vriska, and I probably shouldn't because I might end up getting porn. But let's find out. Vriska Circuit. Does it not sound like they're talking about this person? It really sounds like they're talking about this person. Anyway. Immediately after consuming an instance of SCP-13, subjects will gradually begin to perceive reflections of themselves as having the features of the woman, and will gradually perceive their bodies changing to reflect her appearance over the course of the following weeks. All changes are entirely mental. The subject's body does not change outwardly, only their perception of themselves. These alterations are permanent and cannot be reversed. 13 was discovered after the suicide of Ian Biles, packed in a large cardboard crate in his apartment. A cursory search of the apartment uncovered several hundred sketches of a figure strongly resembling the one perceived under 13's effect. Miles' body had been found sitting at a desk, dead of a massive overdose and draped over a handwritten note transcribed below. During the investigation of Miles' apartment, one civilian investigator became affected by 13's effect. An embedded agent soon contacted the nearest site. The subject, the artifact, and related evidence were extracted and contained. Currently, 217 instances of 13 cigarettes are contained at Miles Site 66. 25 13 cigarettes are contained in Research Sector 9, pending future research into similar anomalous effects, which is apparently SCP-1890. Addendum, below is the note which was acquired along with 13. I see her everywhere, that sad blue lady. I feel like I used to... like I know her. but I can't remember. I love her, but I don't know why. She's so beautiful and sweet and clear, but I don't know anymore. Her favorite flavor. Where did you go? I miss you. And then he was dead. So, moving on. Cigarettes are bad, y'all. I mean, I know there's probably people who smoke them and they know they're bad, but let's read about the Concrete Man, who was totally not that one guy from Teen Titans. Okay, apparently, the Concrete Man is safe. So that's what? We got a granite dude who is actually human, and we got a Concrete Man. Both are safe. Never mind the one who used to shoot people. Okay, so 14 is to be kept in sight blank in a chair with arms, preferably facing a window. Arms like armchair, arms like guns, arms like arms. Probably an armchair. Music should be supplied on a regular basis, preferably constantly. This music should not include pieces originating after 1937. A security camera should be present in 14's room. 14 is a Caucasian male, appearing to be approximately 30 years of age with black hair, brown eyes, and a somewhat round face. Records indicate his name to be Robert Chedford, confined in 1915 to Norwich Asylum in Connecticut for delusional insanity, and claiming that he has been cursed to live forever, and was slowly turning into concrete in consequence. The asylum closed in 1937, and the patients were transferred to various other facilities. 14 came to Foundation attention in 19-something, from rumors of a patient who seemed to be entirely immobile and showed no signs of aging. Further investigation determined that acquisition was warranted. 14 is to all outward appearances a normal man, but he does not appear to age and shows no sign of possessing a metabolism. He does not eat, drink, sweat, or in any other way demonstrate life functions. He breathes only to speak, and apart from his eyes and vocal apparatus, is to all appearances utterly immobile. He has never shown any evidence or pressure ulcers despite his position not having varied for several decades. Neither do his muscles appear atrophied. He can converse normally, but shows little knowledge of or interest in events since his confinement. Addendum. Note, frankly, were I to interview this man without knowing his history, I think he was a perfectly sane and well-adjusted individual who happens to be quadriplegic. As it is, I have to include that he is the ultimate proof of the idea that the mind rules the body. He thinks he is concrete and will live forever, and so he's as close to both as he can be. Somehow. Dr. Blank. So, he placebo-affected himself into immortality. That's what's up. Pipe Nightmare. Euclid. So we're just going to swing back and forth between safe and deadly then. Alright, cool. 15 is impossible to move. What is this? Pipe Nightmare? The sleep screen from Windows 95? Alright. It is contained on site. A gap of at least 2 meters, 6 feet. Thank you for telling me how much 2 meters is. I think I knew what 2 meters was, but when you give me things like 50 kilograms and 1.6 meters, I don't know what the hell that means. I guess 5'4". I don't know what the hell that means. Anyway, needs to be maintained around the entire structure containing 15 at all times, and no structures of any kind are to make contact with 15's current containment structure. Exploration is permissible, but only in teams of 3 with full safety lines and GPS tracking. Any protrusions from 15 must be capped and sealed immediately, with the new site recorded and logged. No aggressive action is to be made within 15. No hand or power tools are allowed anywhere inside of it. No repairs or maintenance are allowed anywhere on it. Alright, so 15 is a mass of pipes, vents, boilers, and other plumbing apparatus completely filling a warehouse in blank. Is this the Freddy Krueger? Is this the Freddy Krueger room? I think this is the Freddy Krueger room. The pipes appear to grow when not under observation, attempting to connect to nearby structures via sewer systems and underground plumbing. 15 contains, at current estimate, over 190 kilometers, which is 120 miles. I don't get how 190 becomes 120, but of pipes ranging in diameter from 2.5 centimeters to just over 1 meter. Okay. Some pipes appear new while others are rusted and leaking. Pipes have been reported as being made of bone, wood, steel, pressed ash, human flesh, glass, and granite. I didn't know you could press ash. I kind of want to see that now. I'm not going to Google it because I'm afraid of what I'll find. On the other hand, I'm reading the SCP wiki, so let's Google what happens when you press Ash. Pressed Ash. What does that look like? Okay. Alright. That is not as horrifying as it could have been. Thank you, Google. Let's see. No pipes composed of lead, PVC, plastic, copper, or any other traditional material for the production of pipes have been found. It reacts to tools and aggression. Plumbing? Why is... Okay, we'll get back to that. Any personnel acting violently, carrying tools, or attempting to damage or repair 15 in any way will trigger reaction. Any pipes near the subject will burst, spraying on the subject for several seconds before the flow suddenly stops. Pipes have been reported containing oil, mercury, rats, a species of insect not yet identified, ground glass, seawater, entrails, and molten iron. Pipes will continue to burst around the subject until death or retreat. 15 was cut back to its original structure after attaching 11 other structures in the area. Currently, 11 personnel have been killed and 20 more are still missing. Reports have been made of the banging and screaming coming from within 15. Alright, let's read plumbing. This was stupid. It was a stupid idea, thought up by stupid people and stupid, safe offices. Agent 2 looked around slowly, letting his flashlight play over the walls. One of the only items the agents were allowed to carry inside 15. Agent 6 and Lon, okay, I guess Lon doesn't have to be a number, were standing just behind him doing the same. The idle chatter and joking had died off about 30 seconds ago, each agent slowly realizing that this was no simple little milk run. Go in, find the observation unit, pull the data and recover the unit. Cake! They'd laughed, Lon asking if she should find a Mario hat to wear, them being plumbers now and all. Now, however, seeing the dim, cramped tunnel yawning before them, the only joke was them being there at all. 2 stepped forward, slowly, fixing his flashlight on the ground. It was a hard mat of pipes more or less level with the floor. A few small tubes stuck up here and there, snaking around like tree roots, or suddenly turning up in the middle of the floor like a pillar. The walls, the ceiling, every inch of the original structure was coated in pipes. Some researcher who led them up to the main door said there wasn't anything left of the old warehouse really, except for the outer shell. He pushed away that whole line of thought, pointedly following the pre-mapped course they had to memorize, stepping around a pillar of tightly woven hair, glossy surface gleaming gently. 6 plodded along, taking the rear, keeping a close eye on 2 and Lon, skittish kids. Lon was jumping at every sound and 2 looked like he was ready to drop and run if he saw so much as a mouse. Kids. He sniffed in the dark, playing his light forward, smelling heat, sewage, and God knows what else. They needed a good military hand to lead them, but damned if 6 was going to mollycoddle grown adults who were going to jump at shadows. They were going to get this goddamn job done and get the hell back out. Fuck that bullshit SCP slip. They were just security blankets for eggheads and flakes. Semi-sentient my ass. They just didn't want people denting their pet horrors. He wanted out of this dripping nightmare. He was going to get this mission done with or without them. Lon tiptoed over a thick, thorny mass of pipe, the surface like braided thistles, trying not to whimper. She kept close to 2, keeping the light at her feet so she wouldn't step on anything nasty. She hadn't wanted to seem like the little weak girl, but she had a terrible fear of tight spaces, and this place was like walking around in someone's closing arteries. Lon shook her head hard, breaking off that whole train of thought. She was the tech, 6 and 2 were the safety. All she had to do was stick by them, pull the data cards out of the MRV, and then leave. She tried hard not to look back at the sealed doors in the distance behind them. Only a couple of turns to the MRV, a little work, and then out. In and out. Simple as pie. She ignored a softly throbbing pipe of leathery flesh near her arm with a focus that was almost physical. They found the MRV after what felt like an hour of walking. It was hard to keep your bearings. The rampant growth of pipes had cramped some areas down the crawlways and snarled others into a random claustrophobic mazes. 6 had nearly gotten stuck twice, and had looked like he was about to murder Lon when she made a comment relating to Winnie the Pooh. I spelled Winnie wrong. Lon was walking again, at least, but it was brittle. It was brittle whistle in front of the graveyard chatter. Two kept trying to follow the directions, but even with them being less than a week old, they were little more than a guideline. When they finally found the MRV, it had been a momentary relief. At least they were at the halfway point. Then they looked at it in the light. It had been speared, for lack of a better term, pinned against a pipe of some kind of dense fabric, or a smooth black pipe had docked itself to the camera lens of the observation vehicle. It wasn't smashed or damaged, it just connected, as if it were made for it. It had lifted the little treaded robot nearly a foot off the ground, and it looked just like other smaller pipes that started to connect to other open spaces on the vehicle. It just sat there, the wheels turning as the battery died, like a bug on a nest of pins. Some clear, foul-smelling fluid was dripping softly from the camera housing. Well! Two's voice echoed in the dark, a monument to pointless speech. They all stood for a few moments, then Lon started to carefully look over the MRV. Six was looking around with increasingly restlessness, starting to mutter quietly. Lon was reaching for the data cards before stopping, looking over at Two. Two, since it's grown into the MRV, do you think it counts? What do you mean, counts? Two kept the light on her and the machine, a hiss of steam behind him making him flinch. I mean, as damaging 15. If I take out the data cards, do you think it will react? Two looked around slowly, shining his light along the floor, as a pipe as wide as a car and seemingly made of compacted lint. This suddenly seems like a bad— oh, shut the fuck up. Both agents turned to stare at Six. He'd stepped up to the MRV, flexing his hands and reaching into his coat with one hand. The other pushed Lon away none too softly. Move it, reaction, for fuck's sake. They just say that shit to fuck with people and keep their toys safe. It's a bunch of weird pipes, beginning and end there. Maybe it grows or whatever, but the damn thing sure as shit isn't going to take offense to people. I'm grabbing this goddamn thing and we're heading out of here. As he spoke, he stepped forward, flipping open the data port cover. More of the clear, scummy liquid had pooled inside. The other two agents froze, staring in shock a moment, and the building seemed to do so as well. The whispered sounds of venting steam, sliding materials, and soft pinging had all stopped. The heartbeat in Lon's ear sounded like gunshots. Two started forward, reaching for Six. Jesus, Six, what the fuck are you? Six ignored him, slipping out the thin data cards. It felt like old, nasty water over them. Bad, but they were built to resist it. He slipped them out, then put the bundle in his pocket. He prodded around the edge of the camera lens, shifting the MRV a bit, trying to see if it would work free as Two and Lon backed away slowly, the science around them seeming to crush inward. Six gave up, turning away from the helplessly trapped MRV and shining his light on the two white-faced agents. Fucking kids, I don't know how you guys survive. The pipe under him opened with the sound of the soft sound of tearing felt. Two and Lon didn't even have time to react before he slid into the widening gap up to his armpits and started screaming horribly. Six's flashlight went tumbling away as the two agents, galvanized by the big man's wretched screaming, ran to help him. Is galvanized even the right word for that? A blast of heat and light was pouring up from under the man as the two agents grabbed his arms and looked down. He was submerged in a mass of thickly flowing molten glass. His clothes had already started to smolder and burn, the stench of seared flesh almost more overpowering than the reverberating screams. They pulled and dragged up half of a man, with the ruined, seared mass of flesh and cloth where his lower body should have been. They panted, trying to drag him. Lon started to scream along with Six, Two's eyes wide and fixed on some point far away from there. There was a horrible swell of sound rising all around them, pinging, hissing, clicking, cracking. A pipe to their side bulging alarmingly and causing them to nearly fall. They regained their footing just as a wooden pipe above them burst open in a spread of splinters and clear, stinging dust. Two and Lon spun away, gagging and choking. Two was spitting out a sudden mass of blood. Glass. It was powdered glass. It poured over Six, muffling his screams, shifting as he struggled a few moments, then stopped, the glass quickly covering the body and spreading. Lon blinked, eyes red and puffy, looking over at Two. He nodded and they bolted down the hall. Okay, so Two has coughing up blood, trying to ignore the rising cacophony of sound, sounding like an approaching subway train. A mass of oily, reeking chemicals boiled up behind them, a jetting surge of rose thorns nearly cutting off their forward progress, forcing them to crawl along in a bone pipe that was shuddering like an old man in the cold. They ran, keeping just ahead of whatever it was. hearing splintering explosions and shivering cracks all around them. They finally came to a snarled crawlway barely a few feet wide. That was the only way forward. Two dived in doing a low crawl, trying to will himself forward like a snake, knowing the passage was only about 15 feet long. Easy! Wouldn't take any time. Lon hesitated, that tiny black gap looking like a mouth, before a sudden burst of steam behind her sent her streaking forward. Sobbing as she started to crawl, calling after two. Two ignored the growing vibration all around him, the creaking ping near his head, and slid free of the opening. He turned and saw nothing. No Lon, no sudden bursting, just the empty hole. He looked around, hands twitching, thinking, then slid back inside, trying to find Lon and physically drag her out. He could hear her muffled, probably behind the next turn, and his flashlight revealed a solid wall of three thick, flaking white pipes. This was it, he was sure of it. The tunnel was right here. And then he heard the pitiful scream behind them. Lon begging, pleading, screaming for him. Two stared, eyes wide, then slammed his flashlight against the pipes. It burst, sending a reeking, corrosive slime over his hand, making him reel back down the crawlway, screaming as it ate into his flesh. He stood outside the opening, holding his steaming hand away from him, trying not to look at the exposed bone. Oh, jeez. Lon, sorry, I'll get help. I'll get someone, just sit tight, I swear. He bolted down the hall as flashing seemed to dim in time to the rising sound. Didn't he have glass shards in his mouth? Like powdered glass ripping him the fuck up? Anyway. Lon panted, screaming for two, hearing the hard bang on the other side of the pipe and his sudden shrieking retreat. She sobbed, her whole body shaking, and slowly started to work her way backwards, crawling on her belly, crying as she muttered some half-remembered prayer. When her feet pushed against a solid wall of pipe, she couldn't even muster a fresh scream. She was trapped. The space not much bigger than a coffin, helpless. She sobbed, face on the ground of warm, fuzzy pipes, and noticed the silence. Aside from her cries, there was nothing. No pinging, no cracks or explosion, nothing. She raised her head in the barely illuminated dark, looking around. She was alive. It was calming down. They'd come for her. Two would get help. She was getting out of here. She fought back her growing claustrophobia, looking along the walls. She noticed a small gap at the ceiling. It started shifting to get a better look at it. A better look. Twisting back and only finding the open end of a pipe. Lon sagged back, closing her eyes, tears leaking down her face. The first sticky drips she simply assumed were the same tears. Then one fell on her mouth, and it was sweet. She opened her eyes and saw a thick, quivering mass of amber goo splatter from the mouth of the pipe, coating her and the floor as it surged out. She coughed, shifting back. It was honey. Or honey or something like it. At least it wasn't molten lead or acid. Then she saw the level rising. It wasn't draining. The pipes were packed too close. She looked around her tiny chamber with horror rising much faster than the honey oozing up her sides. Lon beat on the walls, the floor, the ceiling, trying to block the pipe with her hands, heedless of provoking the thing more. As the honey rose and rose, as cloying sweet as a school-age lover. Her last gasping breath was sweet and stale with honey and screams. Two ran totally lost now, his flashlight dimmed by the moment, and the sound of cracking and bursting pipes starting to trail off. Maybe it was done, finally. 15 was protected, but it didn't seem vengeful. People had gotten hurt before and gotten out fine. It happened. They'd find a way to get Lon out too. She might even be out already. Just found another way to get around the blockage. That was probably it. She was out of this stupid place. 6 was a shame, but why did the lunatic open the case? What the hell had possessed him? He was still musing on this when he tripped over an unseen pipe in the dark around his feet. He pitched forward, yelping a half-surprised, half-terrified bark as he went sprawling. Or he should have went sprawling. Instead, he fell past the floor, into a yawning, open pit of pipe. The thick, oozing sides plunging down at a sharp angle. He screamed, trying to grab something to stop or slow himself, but the walls were oozing and thick, his downward slide gaining speed. His dimming flashlight showed a seemingly endless tunnel stretching off below him. He slid, a scum of stinking, smooth ooze sticking to his clothes and skin. The tube twisted, banging him against the wall as he followed it, his flashlight jittering and starting to flicker. Panic slammed down like a fist. Two grabbed the light and trying to keep it still, pleaded with it, staring at the lamp bulb as it dimmed more and more. It surged a moment, then flickered out, the darkness pressing to his eyes like a cloth. The agent slipping down faster and faster, screaming until he was hoarse, screaming into his throat bled, screaming even as he passed well beyond the physical boundaries of that tangled web of pipes. Days later, when his skin started to shred off, it was almost welcome. So, recovery report. All MIA unrecovered. Data deemed non-vital in light of lost staff. 15 classification level review suggested. Okay, so, that's a good stopping point for this episode. In the next episode, we'll start with the sentient microorganisms, followed by the shadow person and the super ball. Maybe the monster pot, possibly the unseen mold. We'll see. So, this has been Anashi Sasuke. This was episode, I think, 9 of Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki, and I will see y'all in the next one, unlike those agents from the Pipe Nightmare. Later!